Well, it's not quite 11, and we've got a quorum, but we got 2 more people expected, including Commissioner Kemp. So while we're waiting, in case you're wondering why Georgia is sitting here, our wonderful chair, Theron Butler, who's been on that council, he lost his job here and he got a much better. He's very excited with like this very innovative company in Indiana. So he's living right outside Indianapolis. So I've tried to connect him. Of course, he's also an actor. So I've been connecting him with places he can get involved in acting in Indianapolis. But at the last meeting, we elected Georgia vice chair. So she is serving as vice chair. I mean, she will be nominated for you all to move her forward to chair, and we'll be looking for someone that would like to be the vice chair today. So just a little warning while we're waiting to start. If anybody is interested, we'd love to have you throw your hat in the ring.
They do all the work.
Georgia joined the board when the rules for, the terms, it was not a 3-year term. It was a 4-year term that you could then extend. She is finishing up her 8th year. Wow. It's about time she became chair, don't you think?
After I retire. That is awesome. My term is actually up this year. So that's good. It's been quite a transition, and I must say that it's all been for the positive. Really has. That we all continue supporting the Arts Council, and especially with the changes that are now going on with the commissioners that are on the board. And I'm not going to be political, other than we want our Board of County Commissioners supporting the arts and understanding how important the arts to our economy. And what an advocate. Not just Martine, but also her staff. So thank you.
And in 2018, before we were part of the county, I nominated the Hillsborough County Board of County Commissioners to the national award that the Association of Counties gives through Americans for the Arts. They won it. Oh. I went up and the chair couldn't go, and I collected the trophy in Nashville, Tennessee, and I didn't know what the award, and it's this fragile piece of glass that looks like Chihuly, and I had to come back on the airplane in my lap for fear of my life. But if you're ever on the second floor, go to a commission meeting. It's sitting there. It's quite lovely, and it acknowledges. So they were acknowledged as being the best county for supporting the arts, and they've been doing so for so many consecutive years. The nomination was a slam dunk. So all of this is very, very new. So hopefully we can get it all turned.
So do you see any signs? Because last year, the kind of August situation caught us all off guard, right? I don't think we were expecting that things might go this complicated. Mm-hmm. Do we have any signals? Because I think that we will get caught off guard again in August if we somehow don't all help.
Well, advocacy is always a year-round process, especially with public funding. So hopefully the new statistics from the economic impact study will have some bearing. But because we do have our applicants that are going to be coming to the, I think I'm going to go ahead and get started, even though we're missing a couple of people, but we do have a quorum. So anyway, we'll call the meeting to order at 11:03, and we do have a quorum. And we haven't had anyone show up for public comment, and no one contacted me to say they would be here for public comment. So we don't have that. So the next thing would be the approval of the December 5th board meeting minutes, which were sent in your packet. Anyone have any questions about that, or anyone like to move to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second.
Who's second? Okay. And at this point, I think we will go ahead and get to the meat of the meeting, so that our
Vote to
guests
approve.
can find out what they were.
Martine. Vote to approve.
Hmm?
Vote to approve. You had a first and a second, but you have to vote to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. And that's why my staff keeps me honest. So could we have a vote?
I,
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so unanimously. Okay, so as, do we have our guests up? Everybody here? Yes. Coming to, so as we move to the agenda item of the FY 2025 Cultural Development Grants, we want to welcome the Cultural Development Grant applicants attending this meeting and just very briefly explain the scoring process. The members of the Arts Council Advisory Board serve as grant reviewers for all Arts Council grants. All applications were reviewed by staff to determine eligibility. All eligible organization applications were sent to the Arts Council board members who were asked at that point to identify any conflicts of interest with a particular organization. If a conflict of interest was determined, the member with the conflict of interest recused themselves from scoring that particular application. Board members reviewed the remaining applications and submitted their individual scores. Staff averaged all reviewer scores to determine a final score for each organization. A total of 100 points is possible, with a minimum of 80 required to be eligible for funding for the Cultural Development Grant. However, a score of 80 or higher does not guarantee funding. Average scores will be announced in alphabetical order by name of organization. Once all average scores are announced, the Arts Council Board will vote to approve the scores. However, and this is very important, grant awards are contingent upon approval by the Board of County Commissioners. We do not estimate receiving this approval and being able to announce grant awards and provide grant agreements until after October 1st, 2024, which is the beginning of the FY fiscal year. We ask that applicants in attendance remotely observe and listen quietly during the discussion and not interrupt the proceedings as they occur. However, any questions regarding scoring or other aspects of this process should be asked of Arts Council staff after conclusion of the meeting, and we're happy to answer any questions anyone may have. Now we will announce the average scores for each cultural development application. Bits and Pieces Puppet Theater, 89.22. Carolwood Players Incorporated, 92.89. Choral Masterworks Festival, 93.22. Florida Museum of Photographic Arts, 94.89. Florida West Coast Public Broadcasting, DBA WEDU, 97.22. Florida Wind Band, 88.78. Job Site Theater, 95.63. Lumina Youth Choirs, 88.33. New Tampa Players, 91.78. Power Stories Theater, 93.00. Rudrum Dance Company, 90.56. Shruti Foundation, 90.67. Stageworks Theater, 95.78. Tampa Bay Businesses for Culture and the Arts, TBBCA, 87.75. Tampa City Ballet, Inc., 93.33. Tampa Metropolitan Youth Orchestra, 93.78. Tampa Repertory Theater, 92.78. Tempest Projects, 92.44. The Gay Men's Chorus of Tampa Bay, 92.67. The Tampa Oratorio Singers Incorporated, 90.11. The Tampa Theater Incorporated, 96. Think Tank Theater Incorporated, 90.78. Ybor City Museum Society, Inc., 90.67. So all of our applicants scored high enough to be eligible funding. So congratulations to our applicants. Now we'd like to have a discussion by the board on the scoring process or anything about it before we move to approve the scores, or if anyone has any changes they want to make or anything they want to point out that they observed in the scoring process that would help our applicants in the future.
One thing that I would always want to point out to our applicants, please have someone review it, review your narrative. There were several applications that had errors that didn't match up with what they had said earlier in their application. Just have someone other than yourself review it. The other thing would be the financials. Please be aware that they should balance. And if they don't, there's going to be questions. But all in all, I would say the applicants did a fine job, other than just be aware of those items when you apply for any grant or any funding.
Any comments? We have some first-time reviewers. Anything you'd like to throw into the mix?
I found that throughout all the applications, most of them spoke about providing the arts to a diverse group of people. And diversity could be anything. It could be racial group, it could be socioeconomic, it could be anything.
Geographic?
Geographic, exactly. And so, but it wasn't really explained in some of the applications what that diversity was. And so I would have liked to know, like, because when as an African-American woman, when I hear diversity, I think of brown and Black people, right? And so I would have liked to understand more what diversity they were offering.
More specificity?
Yeah, and,
okay.
And I understand that there's different types. So what exactly was that? So I saw that word used a lot, but not really explained.
Anybody else have any comments, or are we ready to vote on the scores? Would anyone like to make a motion to accept the scores as presented?
So moved.
Okay, Gary.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So for our visitors, this concludes our cultural development grant review portion of this meeting. First of all, we want to commend the Arts Council board members for their careful review and assessment of these applications. This takes a lot of time, folks. Their willingness to share their time and talents on behalf of our community's cultural sector is commendable. And as always, we want to acknowledge the ongoing support of the Board of County Commissioners in providing funding for these grants. Applicants, you are welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you don't, if you have any questions,
Somebody's
please
got a
let
hand
us know.
raised.
So,
Hi.
Carly, do you want to unmute your mic and speak?
Carla,
Yeah.
you've got a
Can you hear me
question?
now? Can you hear me? Oh, you can't hear me? Hi. I don't know why I can't be heard. Can you hear me?
Maybe you could put it in the chat.
There's Carla. I see her.
Hi, but I can't,
Yeah.
Can you type, put it in the chat?
Hold up, hold
Want
up.
to put it in the chat, Carla?
Hi, is that better? Can you hear me now? Okay, I will chat it. Shite. Hmm.
He wants to send us tickets.
I see someone typing. Maybe it's Carla. Oh. Yes, Carla, we can post the scores, we can send them out. That's not a problem. We won't know the amounts until the beginning of the fiscal year. Okay, your score was, let's see. It was 95.78.
One of the highest.
You're welcome. We'll get all the scores to you. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you all. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to give us a call.
Martine, I have a question.
Yes.
What happens if the commissioners do not approve 460,000? As they say, they only approve 100,000.
Well, they don't, for the amount that was requested is over the amount that we spend on this, on the two grants. So no one ever gets the full amount that they request. We take the full amount for organizational grants, which is 380. And then it's divided between the cultural development and the much smaller amounts for the community arts impact. And that's what we take the full amount. We spend every penny of it, but it goes into a funding formula, which has their score, their budget size, and it's purely mathematical. And the amount comes out, it typically is not a round amount at all. It's down to 46 cents. This funding formula really gets it very precise.
So sort of prorated.
And the other thing is sometimes someone will have applied for other county funding and also have applied for this. And if they decide to take the other county funding, if it is more money, which we certainly understand, I tell you, we do have at least one here in this, that this is a situation, but they don't know at this point how much we can get and how much. So there may be a forfeiture. If there's a forfeiture, what we want to happen is make sure we know that before we compute the funding formula, so that money is not lost, so that it goes back in. But the amount they request, 460, is more than we can, our budget for organizational grants. But we managed to split it up, I think, very fairly.
I'm new, I just wanted to know.
Sure. No, it's a good question. It's a good question. The funding formula is a big part of this because it just keeps it all totally transparent and above board. It's a numbers game. It's your score, it's your budget, and that determines what you get. So I think it's very fair. Okay. So now, you came a little late, Commissioner. We're very sad to report, sad that we have lost Theron Butler to our community, but we're happy he took a fabulous new job in Indiana, and I've helped him connect with theaters in Indianapolis so he can keep acting. But at the last meeting, we did make George Bayhue the vice chair. We need to have who, having been on the board for 8 years, which I can't even do anymore, I think it's about time she assumes to a
You're kind of illegal.
higher. But we also need a nomination from the floor for a vice chair to help Georgia out. There's not a lot to it until the vice chair leaves, at which point the chair typically is the first one, the vice chair is the first one forward for the chair. So is anybody interested? Gary's saying no.
That's it. Too new.
A lot of work.
Georgia said earlier, the staff does all the work, so it's not that challenging. The bylaws do require a vice chair, but this late in the year, we're going to have a lot of vacancies coming in. So if we wanted, I think we could table that to the new year if we read, but we do need to officially, at a minimum, elect Georgia the chair. So does anyone have a nomination?
So moved.
Thank you, Pat.
Please.
My favorite commission.
Okay, okay. No,
Oh, sorry.
no biases. So, all in
We have a
favor,
second.
say
We
aye.
need a second.
It was a second.
Who was the second? Oh, I'm sorry.
Any opposition? Okay, great. Well, welcome, Madam Chair, and you can take over the rest of the meeting.
Okay, all right. Welcome, everyone. Now we have other business, and I think the one thing that I always would like to hear from is the Public Art Committee as to where, if you have a report that you can let us know where.
Before Zoria, I want to say that the last meeting, you may remember, we needed someone for public art. We had not one, but two people. So Vanessa and Zora both put their names in the hopper, and we're very appreciative. And you're going to end up vice chair eventually. But it was great because they had a real hard choice, and they were very pleased with the quality of both of but they can only take one from the Arts Council. And they were very apologetic when they told me, but I'm sure Vanessa will have her chance at something else. So Zora has had a meeting, so would you like to tell us about it?
Well, I'm not prepared to report. I didn't bring my notes because I didn't know that in the other.
Just informal.
Just informal.
Well, I think that it's interesting that the county is planning to have a public art piece installed in every roundabout. And so that was a very interesting thing to learn, that really the public art is supported in the local government. They were talking about some alternations to particular pieces they had to do. They are looking for objects that are they have a view from a 360, and so there were some limitations to the art, so that they can approve. Pretty generous budget, around $150,000 per piece, which I thought is something that is really doable. And so I'm glad to see that there are opportunities for artists to actually present their art and be paid locally. So I think all good news.
That's great.
And Ms. Kemp, do you have anything to report as far as, don't you have a roundabout proposal, or did you do a roundabout proposal for the public art?
No, I don't have any roundabout proposal, but I do have, I don't know if I said this last time. I did put aside in my flag items that each commissioners allow, because I asked for, not being an artist myself, but just really actually into history, downtown, where the Crest Building is, on Franklin Street. And I've watched that building for 20 years. I guess it's been empty ever since the city council rejected it. They wanted to take it down and replace it. And that was a long, long time ago, and it's been empty. And the woman who owned it was very disturbed that she wasn't able to just demolish it and put something else in its place. And she owned it for years and emptied it out, and it started to collapse. I mean, it had a roof and all, and you may all know that already. But, and the windows were boarded up forever. But I had learned that that's where the counter was in that building that had the civil rights protest, that the first sit-ins happened in Tampa at that counter. I know I've heard Arthenia Joyner talk about her being there. So when they took someone new bought it, Carolyn Wilson, who owns the gin joint downtown. And so she is by all accounts interested in restoring it. And I'd seen that the glass came down and everything. And I said, my first thing was, oh, because it's all empty. And I was like, do they have the counter? Is the counter someplace? And everybody said, no, that was taken away a long time ago. It disappeared. You know, everything was stripped. But my idea was to fund putting up a installation, I'm told, of some sort. I wanted to put it in front of that building where that would be like a countertop with people sitting there and with opportunities for others to sit there and have a history of that at that building. And so it's city property. We have the funding. I did the funding for it, but it's a coordination piece among different groups. And so, and there was an offer to put it in West Tampa, which I just said I really did not want to do that. I wanted to put it in the place where where it existed. And there's a big wide sidewalk there that's, I think would be great. And so it seems like whenever it's brought up, the money is there. Everybody is saying that we can proceed forward. So we'll, I've been given some updates at times, but I'm excited to hear a confirmation.
So when she called me about it, I'm the best person I know is Robin Nye. So I said,
It was excellent and wonderful.
so I thought that was the best.
That was great. Thank you.
But, she is, of course, with the city, but she's nationally
Right.
known for public art. It's been all sorts of committees with Americans for the Arts, but I think it's a wonderful idea. So hopefully.
I've had it for like 6 or 7 years. I wanted to do it. And I kept, whenever the History Center would come meet with me, I'd go, hey. How do because I just didn't even, it's not like the county property or the county, any place for the county to do that, like even like a roundabout or something, it's like, is anybody gonna object, or is it okay? Or is this what is an appropriate thing? I didn't want to kind of like be the decider of the artwork, but anyway, but I wanted to set aside the money and try and figure out how to get it done, so.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. Yeah, it sounds like a magnificent project. Whatever we can do, we'll see what we can do to help you if you need any advocates
Great.
here. Yeah.
I might, I was like kind of just keeping it behind the scenes and trying to.
Is there any other?
I wanted to mention, you may not be aware, but in addition to us getting the economic impact results for Hillsborough County, Americans for the Arts considers us the MSA representative for the greater Tampa region. So they also send us the results for Pinellas and Hillsborough County combined, which they refer to as the greater Tampa region. When this happened 5 years ago, Barbara St. Clair from Creative Pinellas and we put together a compilation that was very much separate. Mostly it was our own separate counties wanting to know about our own separate counties, but it was interesting, that combined document. I don't know if you remember when Amazon was looking at the area, because the economic impact, that when they found out we had something that did the totality of the arts and culture, they were very interested. That kind of, but was a bust ultimately. But so same thing. So this year, over the past year, we put together a regional art association, and Zora is part of it, with Tampa Bay Businesses for Culture and the Arts, and Tampa Arts Alliance, and the Hillsborough Arts Council, Creative Pinellas, Clearwater. Who else am I forgetting?
Oh, St. Pete Arts
The
Alliance.
St. Pete Arts Alliance. I think this is a real positive thing. We're having quarterly meetings and sharing information, but because of that, the new executive director of Creative Pinellas got to me, and she said, what could we do? A combined thing. They were bringing Randy Cohen to announce theirs. And we thought it was going to be a little bit more of a combination than it turned out to be, but I don't think that was her fault. I think that was just Randy. but it was, I think it's a real positive to start, because this helps us in advocacy too, because we all can advocate together for one another, and it's not just all territorial and turf. Because when people come here for the arts for the region, I don't think the county line or city limits make a lot of difference to them. So I think this is positive, and I'm glad that we were able to do that, and with Creative Pinellas, and Gary came, which it was not a huge crowd, so we were very proud to see you there, Gary. So we're going to continue these regional meetings, and I think especially as we all concerned about advocacy and funding, it's very, and the Community Foundation is very involved in putting this regional group together, because they see it as an important thing. So I just wanted you all to know that's going on. I think it's really healthy.
Is there some interaction with, like, Visit Tampa Bay and, all the visit things, the people that have all the money?
Well, we have iterated. Eileen goes to meetings with Visit Tampa Bay is actually funded by the county as well. So we're all sort of, and Santiago, until quite recently, was on our board. He rotated off this past year. So we do have the connection there to some degree, but unlike many of our organizations, county organizations across the state, we don't get tourist development funds, and most of them do. And even Pinellas gets tourist development funding for their individual artists.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's interesting. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
And when I
look at it.
I was the executive director of the Sarasota County Arts Council back in 2006. It's a much smaller community. They get it, and I managed a boatload of money because it all comes through the tourists, and they get a lot. They have an opera that does opera and repertory, so people come from Europe because they can come for a week. So these were legitimate tourism kind of things going on, but we're a little unusual. So whereas in Sarasota, I worked very closely with tourism, which was not part of the county. We were both separate agencies, and we collaborated on a lot. We're all under the county now, and I think they're a little bit more interested in those things that get tourist development money, which I believe the larger organizations, the ones we don't fund, like the Straz and the aquarium, I think the zoo, I'm not sure what their actual list is, but we collaborate with them as much as possible, but we don't get funding specifically related to tourism.
I think it'd be interesting I would love to see a breakdown that you have of the TDC money and like what they get in maybe other counties or just privately. I'd like to have that information on hand. I think that
I did a little white paper and compare all the other Florida counties that their arts connected to the county, and it's different models every, of course,
right.
Miami is
Right.
the big cheese, but they're all doing it kind of differently. But we presented it and Bonnie was interested in looking at this, and it turns out the Tourist Development Commission here really isn't interested. They don't think that much tourism really comes from the arts.
I'd still like a copy of it. I like a copy of the
Sure.
white paper. That would be
Sure,
great.
I've got that, and I've got something else we put together about specifically how it's administered in a couple of places, including Sarasota. The administration, you have to, I remember this very much when I was in Sarasota, you have to really show a tourist value. It can't be just implied, whether it's, you know, how many out-of-state people, you had to give metrics. You can't just say, we think this brings tourists. So we've got some information. I'm happy to send
Yeah,
it to you.
to be, I mean, I've looked at these to be fair, kind of like in comparisons to other counties and all that. It's, we had very low tourist development dollars. We had 5 cents, whereas what's in under Florida law, high impact counties can get 6 cents. They had to raise over 30 million a year to hit the bar of 6 cents. We only, or hotel revenue and everything. So we only reached that like in 2019 or something. So we were able to, the county commission voted to implement 6 tax, I think, like after COVID or just before COVID. And the COVID thing happened, which was, you know, so that was part of the issues too. But whereas, so we, for the first time, are making over 30 million because we have a 6 cent. And I think, I can't even remember what it went up to this year, but 42 maybe, or something like that. But places like Pinellas have like 80 or 90 million. Sarasota has like, I think 250 million. And like Miami and Orlando, all these places, the beach communities and all that, they just, I mean, right down on both coasts and everything, these, whereas they have big dollars, whereas we have relatively less in comparison. And then the state lets you set aside one of the 6 cents for each of the sports teams, which one of the 6 cent goes straight to the Lightning and another 6 cent goes to the Bucks. And then to the bigger arts organizations, that is something that Hillsborough County did with the Seminole
money.
money that came to us. And it was, we didn't have to do that. I mean, it was predated me, but they set it aside for 7 arts organizations, and that included at the time, or public facilities. I think it was the History Museum, the Art Museum, the Straws, the Tampa Theater, Mosey, and I'm missing 2. There were 7, the aquarium and the zoo. That's 7. So, and so that was divided up, but now that is gone away and ending. So they will not be getting that anymore. We are unclear if we're getting anything. And even if we do, with the commission we have now, they may not allocate that again in the same way. And it was pretty substantial.
So speaking of Sarasota, it's gone up to, it's on not just 300 million.
Yeah,
It was,
I'm not surprised, right?
right now, the Sarasota commissioners are trying to get rid of any tourist development going to the arts. There is a huge outcry going on right now. This has been forever. They've got that kind of pot of money. So the winds of change are not just in Hillsborough County.
Right.
So this is, that they're doing a lot of advocacy in Sarasota to fight against it. But, you know, I'll be happy to say what I found, the way it's being used in different counties was just like night and day. Nobody,
Right.
there is no model in
Right.
the state of Florida. It's all.
I can imagine that's true.
I'm happy to send that to, but on the subject, I want to commend Kathy and Eileen. There was a state arts retreat only for arts organizations, state arts organizations, at the, what's the name? The
Atlantic Center for the Arts.
Yes. And the last time they did one, I went in 2018, and it was really wonderful because you get to, not only do they have wonderful presentations, they had the keynote this year. The CEO of Americans for the Arts came to Florida to give the keynote. And they had lots of arts activities and things, and the food is excellent. They're used to feeding artists, so they know quantity and quality. So it was a great experience. So this year they opened it up to something other than executive directors, and I'm delighted they both thought the time was worth it to go up there, because what Eileen said to me when I said, how was it, was I didn't know how different we were than everybody else. And so we're different from even the other county organizations, but the majority are nonprofit. Even the Sarasota Arts Council that I was not. And you learn from talking to your colleagues more than even the presentation. So I'm glad they went, and they tell me they enjoyed it. I hope so, because I had a good time when I went. You get your own little cabin in the woods like the artists do. I think it's a real nice thing for the state to do for local arts organizations. And I'm glad they opened it up beyond just the executive director this year. I thought that was good. So they learned a lot of stuff. So, anybody else have anything on your minds? Or, well, where we are in the community arts.
Question.
Oh,
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
And it's just because I'm new to the board and I don't know everything yet. After Art Basel, I had a couple of artists who contacted me because of Art Basel, they were invited to do art shows in other cities, etc. And they said, does the Art Council give any type of sponsorship for travel? And I said, no, that's not necessarily what the Art Council does, but are there organizations that do this?
What we have is our individual artist grant is for two things: for buying a piece of equipment that will help your art practice, and that's what Dee Hood did when she got it. She bought a computer 30 years ago to change her career, or going to a workshop or something that gives you more knowledge.
Right.
It's not specifically for installation of art or, but buying paint or doing things like that. It has to be, it has to be something, a piece of equipment that will last.
Right.
And we have all sorts of underwater cameras, all sorts of things. And it's a maximum of $2,000, but you can get something more than $2,000, but we can only pay for 2,000 of it. But it's really transformed the lives of lots of artists and their.
I know a couple who have received it.
We're also doing a workshop, and we don't have the date. It's going to be in May, but for individual artists, we do always do something during the year to help. But this time, I'm doing something on other sources of funding for, getting beyond just the local sources. And Gary sent me a real interesting thing about creative capital that I'm aware of, and some of those opportunities. I just think it's good to, and it's basically the content of it is going to be about what you need to do before you start applying for grants. You got to get your artist statement. You got to get this. You got to get that. Don't go hunting without a gun. You got to get that all together, and then some sources. And it will be too late this year for some of the sources, but just to get people thinking and planning maybe for next year. So anytime you look for sources for artists, the first thing that comes up is the local arts agency. But we'd like to help them expand beyond, and there are grants out there for exactly what you're talking about. So, and we try and put opportunities up. We just had a mural opportunity, a national mural opportunity. I haven't given it to Eileen yet, but we like to let our artists know about things that are available. So we try, but our particular grant is very narrow. It's
So there are those types of opportunities for them with other organizations, or
there is There are opportunities, I'm gonna try in this workshop to go, there are opportunities just for older artists. There are opportunities just for artists of color. There are opportunities, I mean, and there are a lot that are just for, you know, you take, or just for Southern artists, and they specify the states, you know, so I'm gonna try, it's almost too much. I've been trying to put this together. It's almost too much for one session. But I just want to get people thinking about and also how to determine before you write that application, if this is a good match, so you don't waste the time. I mean, our artists don't have time to be writing applications that they aren't really even qualified for. So, but I'm hoping as a result of this, the timing will help us get more applications for our grant this year, because I always think we don't get enough people applying. Many of our artists are just intimidated about the idea of writing and it's a pretty easy grant application, but and then once they put in the application, Kathy has to teach them how to do their receipts and everything, but she's good at that. So, but not specifically what you said, but I think we can, you know, help direct them, you know, if they have something like that. But there are a lot of opportunities out there. It's
I figured they were.
beyond the Arts Council that they may want to take a look at. Anything else anybody wants to talk about? Man, we're efficient. We get this meeting over in short
So
order.
your next round of grants to review is the community arts impact.
I was going to say community arts grant, the application period ends this
April
week,
26th.
the 26th. So it won't be too long before we're sending out, we'll do the staff review and we'll be sending those out for review. And those will be at the originally scheduled June meeting that we'll take a look at those. So we'll send you the time frame. But at least we got them staggered this year. Those people that were on the board last year did them all because we couldn't do it until we got the go ahead, and we were doing all at once. So stars in your crown to you and everybody else that did all at once. So in this way we stagger them out, which I think makes it a lot easier and less painful. But thank you all. I mean, you can't do funding without grant reviewers. It's
Any idea how many grants are in this next batch?
We
As
don't
of
know.
today, there were 19, but not all of them are gonna,
Make it, okay. So
but I'll keep
it's gonna be
it.
less than what we have.
I
with this.
check every day, so if you want me to let you know, I can let you
That's fine.
know.
Only reason I'm concerned, I'm gonna be gone for that window that you do
Okay.
grants, and I've got 4 days at the end, so I'll do the mad rush at the end.
Okay, well,
Like
we'll try
20 of them.
try to make it easy, guys.
Yeah, a lot, there's like a couple of duplicates in there. There are a couple that are not even eligible. I already can tell, so.
And just so you know, during that week of staff review, we had some applicants for the cultural development grant that clearly would not make a cut for culture, that I called and I said, do you know about the community arts impact grant? You know, and then when I told them about it, it was a project grant, not general operating support, and that there's no match, you don't have to match. But they go, oh, that's the one we should apply for. So I'd much rather, yes, we've got the schedule so you can not apply for the cultural development and not get it, and then be able to still apply for it. But why have them do 2 grants if so? We try and catch before they've even submitted it. If we see an organization, Kathy does the research and I look at it, we decide, we just say, you know, this might be better. And most of the time it's an easy sell because they really don't know what's the right fit. So we just help them with that. And that way we got everybody qualified for funding, which would not have been the case with some of those other organizations. So that's, and we try to make it easy on you guys and not give you something that hasn't already met the eligibility. Well, welcome
Oh, well, thank you.
It took you 8 years, but
It just seems
you're an
like,
overnight success.
it just seems like yesterday. We've been through a lot of transitions, so his pleasure's been all mine. That's what it is. So if there's nothing else that anyone would like to add, then is there a motion for adjournment? Okay, got to. Mercedes and Gary, I think.
Second? Mercedes, okay. All in favor?
Bye.
Hey, it's lunchtime. Let's adjourn.